Throughout the past 5 years, the innovation surrounding the family coaster market has been pretty remarkable. Ride manufacturers as well as theme parks have realized that family sells. Build that ride with a lower height requirement and just about everyone can enjoy it. The challenge then becomes, how do you create something new and exciting and different from everyone else? B&M's response to this came in the form of the Family Wing Coaster, which was first introduced on Maximus at Legoland Germany in 2023. The ride stands only 56 feet tall, has a max speed of 34 miles per hour, but flips riders upside down twice, all while maintaining a 48-inch rider height requirement. That makes this ideal for a child's first big kid roller coaster, and likely even their first time going upside down. The low height and speeds make it not too intimidating, and with less than 2,500 feet of track, it's a quick ride, so if a kid doesn't like it, no worries, it'll be over in no time. And yet, despite all that, it's a little odd, isn't it? B&M first debuted the wing coaster in 2011 with Raptor at Gardaland. From the beginning, it was designed as a high thrill coaster, and we've now seen installations across the world. It wasn't until well over a decade later that they decided to shrink it down. And once you've become so familiar with the forces and those sensations that become associated with the wing coaster, riding a smaller iteration is a little strange. As of now, this is only one of 2 operating B&M family wing coasters around the world, the other one being Mandrill Mayhem at Chessington in England, and that one somehow is even weirder because that isn't a full complete circuit. You end up going through the whole course forwards and backwards. This at least feels like a traditional miniature version of those wing coasters that we might be familiar with. The downside is when you experience it, you have this moment of feeling underwhelmed because your eyes tell you one thing. You see the train and you're like, yes, I've done this before. I know what to expect. And then you go around the course and your brain is like, wow, that was a lot less than what I'm used to. And I believe the origin of those conflicting thoughts can be all traced back to the fact that this has inversions. Typically, we associate a family coaster as not going upside down. Anytime you do an inversion, it automatically ups the thrill. That's why, if you even visit the Maximus page on Roller Coaster Database, you'll see that Maximus is labeled as an extreme ride, not the family coaster that it's designed to be. It becomes this odd juxtaposition of like, who is this really targeted towards? And I think it wasn't until visiting Legoland Germany when we figured it out. The park that Maximus is located in easily has the most thrilling rides of all the Legoland parks that I have been to. Attractions that you would typically see at a much larger theme park, such as a Gerstlauer Skyfly. They even have Kuka arms. Clearly, this is a theme park that is designed for every member of the family. So you have your smallest of kids that will want to do the tame attractions, play with the Legos, have a good time, but then you have those older kids that maybe they'd be a little bored otherwise. Now, they have an attraction too, and their little brothers or sisters have an attraction that they can work their way up to. I think about the first time that I did a roller coaster that went upside down. If I had to guess, I was probably around 10 or 11. I don't think I fully comprehended what an inversion was. I didn't get hung up on it, but I know a lot of other kids do. Going upside down is inherently intimidating, and it's what holds a lot of these younger riders back from wanting to get on that big roller coaster. And I get it, it's a foreign sensation. And when I really thought about it, I think in particular why kids are scared of inversions is because of that hang time sensation. They're probably afraid of that prolonged feeling of dangling upside down. So logically then, a quicker inversion, like maybe a 0G roll, is the way to get around this. Something that happens fast, you don't even realize you went upside down. I think about Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios. That's an indoor Vekoma launch coaster where those inversions come at you pretty fast. I imagine a lot of those first-time riders, those kids, don't even realize that they went upside down. And then you have Maximus, which does the opposite. It has inversions with drawn-out hang time. Moments where the train just slowly rolls through it, and you have that prolonged feeling of hanging upside down. They even went as far as showing that off at the front entrance. When you enter the Mythica land, you walk directly under that inversion, so you can't miss it. And I thought that was an interesting choice. Visually, it's fantastic. But I can't help but wonder, just by doing that, how many of these kids they are scaring away. But you could always look at it from the flip side. By featuring that inversion so prominently, riders can know what to expect. There's no tricks. The entire layout is out in front of you. And with a theme like these friendly Lego creatures, maybe it's inviting and it will actually inspire kids to be brave. Obviously, as seasoned coaster riders, we are not necessarily the target audience for this attraction. I wanted to ride it for completely different reasons than what I imagine most people are doing it for. And that's why I try to view it through this lens of not just the rider, but also the operators of this park. Why they would choose to invest millions of dollars into this attraction specifically, that they said, yes, this is the one for us. Because the family market is a tough one. Every ride manufacturer has their own creative iteration of the family coaster. How do you decide which one to build? In the case of Legoland Germany, I think you actually have to look to the Merlin parks, which are in the same family as Legoland. Gardaland pioneered the first wing coaster. Thorpe Park followed shortly thereafter with the Swarm. Heide Park has Flugder Dämonen. So this company had a lot of experience with the wing coaster specifically, which is why they probably felt comfortable going with a family wing coaster. During our time at Legoland, Maximus did pull decent crowds. I want to say it had maybe around a 20-minute wait, and guests ranged in all shapes and sizes. Even those that are too small still had something that they could do in the Mythica Land with the frog hoppers next door. Presentation I thought was very nice. I loved how you can see Maximus the Skyline on the exterior of the station. Great color palette with all the different blues. The tarps hanging from the ceiling in the station. Miniature Lego models in the queue. The only thing it needed was air conditioning. But that's a much bigger problem than just Legoland Germany. The trains are a really well thought out design. Bravo to the sculptors who made it look like actual Lego pieces in the center. In terms of ride experience, from the small lift hill, you drop off into a helix. Decently tight, it actually pulls some solid forces. Your first of two inversions involves the train stalling out towards the second half of the roll. So if you're in the back of the train, that hang time is amplified, versus if you're in the front, you're starting to already turn the other direction. The train does have a shake to it, that like jitter or stutter that you get with a lot of these other B&M wing coasters. And naturally, that vibration is amplified if you are on the outer seats because you're further away from the track. With any little movement, you're going to feel it more. So for that reason, I recommend the inside seats. It felt smoother than Mandrill Mayhem. I thought that attraction actually ran pretty rough for being a brand new ride. And not saying that Maximus was perfect either, but I feel like it was at least a bit more enjoyable. But I still wonder if that vibration in the outer seats would be too much for like a real young kid. It's tough to say, but after that second inversion, that's when you hit the brake run. So I wasn't kidding when I said this is a short ride. They clearly only had so much land to work with when they were building this expansion pad, but still would have been nice to see like another S-bend or something, because I think those directional changes are actually pretty fun. Before Maximus's final score, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I can applaud the teams at B&M and Lego for doing something different, seeing how it goes, and I'd be very curious to know what sort of response they've been hearing throughout the years that they've now had this ride. And I think that will point to the future of whether we see more family wing coasters. Because as of right now, I'm leaning towards I don't think that we need like a bunch of these. You know, B&M's traditional wing coasters really took off, and I think there's a few places that a ride like this could do well at. Specifically, I think about Legoland Florida. That would be very different than anything else in Orlando, and I believe would complement the other rides in the park as well as the surrounding area. But outside of that, you know, if I were in a management position where I'm trying to think of what type of family coaster put in my park, I just don't know that I personally would go with something like this, especially when the competition is so strong. A ride like this really reminds me of what Intamin announced at this past IAAPA. They have a new family LSM coaster they launched, which is like a miniature Tutatis or Pantheon. So you have that swing launch system and inversions, but with a lower height requirement. So yet another type of family coaster that's like a step up, not quite thrill, but pushing the boundaries. And I'm really curious to see if that will take off. Right now, between those two options, I would go with the Intamin. But I will admit, the visuals of the family wing coaster are pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I do prefer the inline seating position more so than where you're sitting on the outer edge. And having a wing coaster in your park can be a nice supporting ride, but I don't know if I personally would put it as your headliner. But those are just my thoughts on Maximus Flight of the Guardian at Legoland Germany. Let me know down in the comments below if you have experienced this ride, if you agreed with the points I brought up. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to check out the other coaster reviews that we've posted. They're all available in a playlist organized in alphabetical order. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.